Prepping the skin using witch hazel and a white latex sponge. Alrighty, so what we have right here is witch hazel, and this is also the white latex sponge. Super simple, isn't it? So this is a witch hazel with like a pump jar, so it just pumps directly into the sponge. It makes it much easier. And all we're doing with the witch hazel is just cleaning off his skin, because what happens, it's either you have oils on your skin, just natural oils, you've been sweating or whatnot, or like most guys, they shave before the makeup and they put on aftershave or they put on a lotion. So we just want to make sure that barrier is gone so that the prosthetics will glue and stay on the skin for as long as we need this makeup to last. So we're trying to do a really good job. His neck, his lips, his forehead, and especially behind his ears. We need behind his ears to be clean because we're going to be pinning back his ears in the next step. So we're going to clean his skin, and it looks like he's pretty good. He didn't have a lotion on, so this was a pretty quick process. So up next, we're going to be pinning back the ears, and we're going to be using the Delium Tools 7-piece glue set, the EBA Silabon adhesive, and Opsite translucent adhesive film. And the reason we want his ears pinned back and out of the way is because that's it. We just want them out of the way. There's just too much like negative space, like empty space behind his ears, and we want the cowl or the headpiece to fit him as tight and as snug as possible without being loose on the inside. All right, this is the 7-piece glue set right there, and you can see some of the brushes behind it on the table. And the adhesive is Silabon. This is made by European Body Art. And this is what we're going to be using for the whole process today. So I put a little bit of the adhesive in one side and a little bit of 99 in the other. I treat the 99 as a thinner sometimes. And then I'm putting the 125 and the 126 glue brushes in the holder because those are the ones that we're going to be using, and that's the 126 right there. And this is the 125. And the reason we're using these brushes, they're a little bit smaller glue brushes. They're not too big. They fit behind the ear really well. So that's why we're using it for this process. And as you can see, we're getting a little bit of adhesive behind the ear, and also we're putting it into the hair as well. We need a flat surface back there. It's like when you block out brows with adhesive or glue sticks or whatever, you really want to lay that hair down and really push it down. So we're laying the hair down behind his ear so that his ear will lay flat once we push the ear back. And as you can see, I'm going over and over and over a section of the hair because what I'm trying to do is for that adhesive to dry, me to really push that hair down. And this is really important for cleaning behind the ears when you need to do a cowl like this. Make sure you clean behind the ears really well so that this adhesive will stick and stay down as well. Now that said, it does get really hot up under these cowls. So a lot of heat and moisture, and the enemy of any adhesive is heat and moisture. So we're gonna be using Opsite right here. This is Opsite. This is a medical, basically a medical film. You know, it's so thin, so it's not really a tape. They use this stuff for like IVs and stitches to go over your stitches to hold your skin together and stuff. But it works so well when doing bald caps or if you need to glue down certain areas of the face, whether it's pulling anything back on the face or laying something down. It's so thin that you barely even see it. All right, now I'm just sort of massaging it, making sure, because this stuff is so thin, I really want it to lay down and hold the ears back so that nothing pops up underneath the cowl. If it pops up, you're gonna have a lopsided head, so make sure you have everything down and secured the best that you can. Alrighty, it actually looks pretty good. Everything looks flat. I'm just making sure, giving it a little bit of time, making sure that everything is secured and tight. And you also want to talk to your model about this. If they're not comfortable with it, you know, it's going to be tough. It might look a little weird with the cowl over it. But Yvonne here has been through this numerous times. I've been through it so many times. For me, it's not a problem, but I know some people are a little bit more sensitive than others. So make sure you talk to your model before you do this. But everything looks good. I think we got it. I think we can move on now. Next up, we're going to be applying the bald cap. So we're going to be using, again, the Delium Tools 7-piece glue set. We're going to be using Mel Products bald cap. This is going to be a vinyl bald cap. And again, we're going to be using the EBA European Body Art Silabond adhesive to glue it down. Now this bald cap is not going to be pretty. It's going to be quick and dirty. This is only to go on underneath a cowl. So it doesn't need to be pretty. And we're just basically using it to move his hair out of the way, and so that we can glue the cowl down on top of it. And that's about it. Alrighty, so right here is the Mel's bald cap. So I'm going to take it out of the package and I'm going to stretch it out just a little bit. And now Yvonne here has little bull horns up, right? That is called bull horns. That is what we call it. He's going to hook his fingers into the bald cap right here, and we're going to pull it right on. It just makes it easier for everybody, and it goes on like a breeze. So now Jackie here, she has his little scissors. She's just gonna loosen it up a little bit in the front right here to make it a little bit more comfortable for Yvonne, because it does go over his eyes just a wee bit. All right, now we got it on, we know that it fits and it looks good. We're gonna pull it back in the front. So just lift it up right here. And now we're gonna be just putting a little bit of adhesive in the front. We're gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna pull it back over. But let's see what brush I am going to be using. I think I'm going to be using, yep, it is the 129 Bent Multi-Purpose Glue Brush. This is one of my favorite glue brushes, by the way. So if you guys really want a great small glue brush, it is this one. I love it. And it looks like Jackie is using the Filbert, so that is the 126 glue brush. Usually, like for smaller strips and stuff, I go for a really tiny glue brush. Now I'm gluing down hair on the side of his head right here, just because I want the bald cap to stick really well and to lay flat and give it, you know, more of a surface to glue down. So I'm just gluing down a little bit of his hair right here. And don't worry guys, this adhesive it does come out pretty easily. Silabond is an amazing adhesive, so don't worry about getting it into someone's hair. So we're trying to dry the adhesive right now, because if we pull down the front of this bald cap and it's not dry, it's not going to dry underneath the bald cap. Bald caps don't breathe, right? So you can't expect something wet to evaporate from underneath. So make sure it is dry. You can use a fan, you can use an airbrush or whatever. Just dry the adhesive and then pull the bald cap over the top. So we pulled the bald cap down, and now we're sort of massaging it into place to make sure it stays. Alrighty, so now we're just going to start gluing it a little bit more in the front, where near the sideburns, maybe in the front of the ear. We're just reaching up under it with a glue brush with a little bit of adhesive on it, and just gluing it down. Again, this is not going to be a beautiful bald cap. This is a quick and dirty bald cap, but it's going to look good. It's just not going to look like camera ready for a bald makeup or whatever. So we're just reaching up under the bald cap, applying a little bit of adhesive, and then drying it with a fan. Again, it's super important that you have the adhesive flash off or dry a little bit so that you can lay down the bald cap. Alrighty, so I have some tiny little scissors next to his ear over there, and I'm going to trim out his ear. I want his ear to be out of this bald cap. Not only because I want more of a surface to glue to skin, so I want to glue the cowl to his ear, but I also want less material over his ear as possible, just so he can hear a little bit better. Even with that thin bald cap over his ear, it does get a little, the voices just get more muffled. The more layers you put on, the more muffled. So it's just going to be better for him. And guys, also be very careful. I'm using some very sharp scissors right here. Make sure you know what you're doing. I'm pulling the bald cap away from his ear, and then I'm trimming it so that I know I'm going to nick his ear or anything like that. So I'm still using that 129 glue brush right there to just to glue the bald cap onto a little bit of his hair, a little bit onto the op side, because I am gluing the bald cap onto the op side. That's one of the reasons I like putting the op side back there, is it has another contact point for the bald cap. And now I'm just trimming it out. You can, like Jackie on the other side, she is blending it away with a little bit of edge blender. I'm just gonna cut it. It's quicker for me to just cut this bald cap, and so that we can move on to applying the cowl or the face. Trimming it away. And it'll look seamless too. You can always, like up next, I'm gonna be using that the 129 glue brush. Let's see, right here. I'm just gonna reach right up under that bald cap and just glue all that down. It's super simple. This is why I love the 129 glue brush. It gets up under edges real quick and it just lays it all down. So it looks pretty smooth right there. And the bald cap looks pretty nice. Even though it's not supposed to be perfect, I actually thought it came off pretty well. Looks good. Awesome. I think we got it on there. I think it's time to move on to the next step. Let's do it. So next up, we're going to be applying the cowl or headpiece. We're going to be using Delium Tools 7-piece glue set, EBA Silabond adhesive, and an RBFX alien cowl. Alrighty, there it is, the Silabond. It's the adhesive that we're going to be using. It is a silicone adhesive, but I use it for foam latex all the time. And this is the 127 large glue brush. I'm using a large glue brush because, well, it's a large area. It's a large cowl, so I need a big brush to cover a large area. And now this is the cowl. This is a foam latex RBFX alien head. Foam latex is really soft and very lightweight, and that's why I love it. Alrighty, so what I'm going to be doing here is basically test fitting the prosthetic. I've never put it on them. I don't know really how it's going to fit, so I'm going to lay it on top. It is a generic prosthetic, meaning that it was sculpted on something generic. And luckily, Yvonne doesn't have too big or too small of a head. He is sort of a medium size, so it looks like it's going to fit him pretty well. And so I'm lining it up. You definitely want to line it up, make sure everything is going to fit where you want it to fit. I'm even going to get the face, the alien face, and put it on top for a second, just to make sure everything lines up before I glue it down. I want to make sure everything is going to line up perfectly and look good together. All right, with any prosthetic, you always want to start from the center and work your way out to make sure you got very nice, like a very good symmetry going on. So what I'm doing is I'm just pinching this prosthetic, lifting it up, and I'm going to glue the centermost part of this prosthetic, lock that down, and then work my way from one side to the other. Just so that everything is very symmetrical. Now, if it's a mutant, you don't have to worry about symmetry, but because this is an alien, look, it's supposed to have symmetry, so we want to make sure we got everything locked down. All right, so I'm using that 127 glue brush. I'm going over his ear. That's why I took his ear out of the bald cap, because I want it to stick to his ear, and I'm going up as far as I can with this brush up under. And I'm doing it, I'm putting it on his skin and the prosthetic. I'm doing it on both. And then I let it dry a little bit. Of course, again, you want to let it dry and then push it down. But also a really good thing about foam latex is it does breathe. So if there is a little bit of moisture, if a little bit of the adhesive didn't flash off, didn't completely dry, it will absorb into the prosthetic and it'll still lock itself down pretty well. But ideally, you want to definitely let it dry a little bit before you stick it down. All right, I got a lot of pieces locked down, and so as you can see, I'm working from one side to the other, making sure this side tack a little bit of this side down. I go to the other side, I tack a little bit of that side down, and I just keep moving back and forth. And this large glue brush really, it puts a lot of adhesive down to a larger area real quick. And that's why I love using this brush on really large areas. And now this cowl also, it doesn't have to blend well. When you look at the edges and you might see like, oh, there's a weird ripped open edge there, here. It doesn't really matter. The face is going to completely cover anything that is on the forehead, the cheeks. So I'm not too worried about blending this prosthetic down or getting it exactly or going over an eyebrow or something like that. It can go over an eyebrow, it can do anything like that. The face is going to cover it and lock everything down. And I'm using the fan. I'm drying the adhesive. I'm making sure that there's not too much wetness going on up under this prosthetic. And that little portable fan really comes in handy. Next up, we're going to be fixing a rolled over edge. We're going to be using the Delium Tools 122 bent glue brush, the Delium Tools 129 bent multi-purpose glue brush, and a little bit of 99% alcohol to roll that edge over. All right, there's the 122 and the 129 glue brushes that we're going to be using to fix our mistake. Now, when you first start out gluing down prosthetics, you're always scared to roll something over, to rip an edge. It's really terrifying to mess up and then to needing to fix your mistake. It's not hard, guys. Make sure you just do it. Just fix your mistake. Something happens, fix it. You know, don't be scared to make a mistake, and also don't be scared to fix your mistake. And so you guys can see there is, I'm gluing down this neck, so it is going to be seen, so I do have to fix it because it's not going to be covered by the face. So look, I'm just going to fix this little rolled over, and you'll see it right there on the neck, this little like pinched area where it's rolled over. It's a really thin edge right there. So I'm going to fix it with this 122 glue brush. So what I did is put a little bit of 99% alcohol, and I'm just going to roll it. I'm just going to stick the brush up under there with a little bit of alcohol to reactivate this adhesive, to lift the edge, and I'm just going to keep picking at it until it rolls itself over. Rolling, 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 and boom, the edge is all the way rolled over. Check that out. How nice does that look? Now, because there is so much alcohol now in the prosthetic, you want to dry that alcohol so that the adhesive will stick and not be activated still. And just to lay it down, I'm going to use a little bit of RCMA powder along with our 173 Stomper brush. Basically, it's actually a sponge, and it does come in the 7-piece set. And check it out, I'm just applying a little bit of pressure, boom, 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 powder right there, so the edge isn't sticky, and that pressure is going to lay down that edge really nice. And brush it off, and there you go, you got a fixed rolled over edge, easy. Now we're going to be gluing down foam edges. We're going to be using the Delium Tools 122 bent glue brush, the Delium Tools 129 bent multi-purpose glue brush, some 99% alcohol, then we'll be using the Delium Tools 173 Stomper, and some RCMA no color powder. So I'm going in with the 129 multi-purpose bent glue brush right here. I have a little bit of adhesive on it, mixed with a little bit of alcohol, and I'm just sort of lifting edges and laying them down. Like you see that, where I just pull back with my finger. If the edge comes up, I just stick the little brush up under there, put a little bit of adhesive down there, and lay it right down. I'm going to do this all around all the prosthetics, no matter if it's the face, the ears, or whatever. I just sort of I lift a little edge, I just pull it back. If the edge pulls back, I go up under and I lay it right down. And a really good thing about foam latex, it is a sponge. So after you do this, you think you get all the edges down. What you can do is mix a little bit of adhesive with some alcohol, just sort of thin it out. And then do what I do here, just go over the edge, just sort of splotch over the edge, stipple over the edge with a little bit of adhesive mixed with alcohol. It'll make it really washy so it absorbs into the prosthetic, that really thin edge, and it'll lay that edge down. And now I have the RCMA colorless powder, and I'm using the Stomper brush, the 173 Stomper brush, and I'm just powdering the edges. Because I did go over the edges with that adhesive, the edges will be sticky, so I want to make sure nothing is sticky, and just put a little bit of powder over the edge. And with the 173 Stomper, that pressure is really going to lay down the edges. Next up, I'm going to be darkening around the eyes. I'm going to be using the Delium Tools Character Alcohol Activated Palette, the Delium Tools 175 FX tin brush, 99% alcohol, black cream makeup, and the Delium Tools number 163 mini finger brush. Alrighty, so what I'm doing here is I'm matching the face up to his face and the cowl, and I'm looking through the eyes, and what I need to do is know where to put black around the eyes. Where does it match up? And that's what I'm doing here. I'm looking through, and now this is the character palette, and it has black in it, so I'm going to use a little bit of 99% alcohol, and I'm going to activate it with the 175 FX10 brush. This is a nice little stipple brush. It's flat, it picks up a lot of material. That's why I'm going to use it. So here goes the alcohol, and now I'm going to work up a little bit of makeup with this. So I'm going to try to activate it, help it activate. And you want to use 99% alcohol because this is an alcohol activated palette. 91% is not going to work as well. And so the face is up, and I just marked where I need to put the black around his eyes. Now we're putting the black around his eyes because he's going to have these sort of transparent globes that act as his alien eyes. So they're not completely dark. They're like transparent because he needs to see through it. So it's almost like sunglasses. In some sunglasses, you can see his eyes through the sunglasses. So with this, at least this is going to sort of camouflage. So I'm making it really splotchy black around his eyes. So it's a little camouflage so that you won't be able to see in as well. And now this is the Delium Tools mini finger brush. And Jackie is using a little bit of black cream to go around the eyes just to finish it. So the reason I used the alcohol activated palette around the larger area is because if I need to glue down prosthetic in that area, the cream is not going to prevent it from sticking, because creams and oils, that basically prevents any of the adhesives to stick to it. And so that's why most of that is going to be alcohol colors, because now it's just pigment and not cream and not oil. Prepping the lips and nose. We're going to be using zinc oxide powder as well as the Delium Tools number 173 Stomper brush. All right, here we got some zinc oxide powder right there. And we're going to be applying it with the 173 Stomper brush. Now the reason that we are going to apply this around his nose and mouth is because the enemy of all adhesives and prosthetics is heat and moisture. So the zinc oxide just helps dry that area, and it helps the adhesive stick better to those areas. Of course, you can see that I'm putting it around his nose and around his mouth. That's just going to help with the adhesion of the prosthetic, and that's about it. That's just a little trick that I picked up over the years to help prosthetics stay around these troubled areas. Applying the face and ears. We're going to be using the Delium Tools 7-piece glue set, EBA Silabond adhesive, RBFX alien face, RBFX ears, and the RCMA no color powder. Alrighty, there's the Silabond that we've been using this whole time. So we're still using the Silabond on the face. And this is the 7-piece glue brush set, Delium Tools. And this is a look at all the brushes that are in the set. All right, this is the RBFX alien face, and I'm going to start out by using the 126 filbert glue brush, and I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive inside the prosthetic on the nose, because I want to start from the inside and work my way out. So you want to start from the centermost point and work your way out. So I did add a little bit of adhesive to the model's nose as well. So a little bit of adhesive on the nose, a little bit of adhesive inside the nose, and now I laid it down. I matched up his nose perfectly with the prosthetic, so I'm going to work from the centermost point and work my way out. So a little bit on the forehead too. So we did a little bit of adhesive on the forehead, and now I'm actually going to be going in to finish up the forehead, because I want to lock everything down the center. So I want to lock the forehead, the nose bridge, the nose, and then next up I'll lock the mouth. So there we go. We got the forehead locked down. We got the nose locked down. So now I want the mouth locked down. The reason I want the mouth locked down right here is because, you know, it is going straight down the center, you know, so we have nice symmetry, but the mouth doesn't fit him that well. It's a smaller mouth. These prosthetics are generic, so they're not made to fit everybody perfectly. So you really got to make it fit and make it work for the model that you're working on. So I got the 129 bent multi-purpose glue brush because it's bent. It picks up a lot of adhesive, and you can get up into a small curvy areas really well with the brush. And I'm just gonna have to make this fit his mouth the best I can. So I am gonna stretch it just a little bit as well. Don't be afraid to stretch foam latex, but also be afraid to stretch it too far. Don't stretch it too far. So I'm stretching it just a little bit just to make sure it fits his mouth really, really well. And so what we're doing right here, so Jackie's actually gluing his top lip. So she's lifting the prosthetic and really getting up in there really nice with that 129 glue brush. It's an awesome brush. It's definitely one of my favorites. Using a little fan to really dry it out and lock it down, because we do have the zinc oxide up under it, so that's going to help it stay. So we really want to dry the adhesive. So now we're going to powder. We're going to powder with the 173 Stomper brush. This brush, it's about powdering, but it's also about pressure. It's a nice stiff sponge, so you can really push into those areas to lay it down, because this adhesive is really pressure sensitive. You really want to push it. If you push it down really with a stiff brush, it's really going to lay down. So now this is going to be the large glue brush. I'm going to be using the large glue brush to glue down large areas. So this is the 127. So we're going to be working from one side to the other. So I want to lock down this side. So I'm going to lift up the prosthetic. I'm going to put a big strip of adhesive down, because the large glue brush is awesome by laying down long strips. And there it goes. I got that one. So I got the left side pretty much locked down. So now I moved on to the right side. Again, it's about symmetry. So I'm trying to keep everything symmetrical. I'm lifting up one side, laying down a strip of adhesive up under there, and then making sure I don't get any weird wrinkles. So I'm just, laying it down where the prosthetic wants to lay down. So I got everything lined up. I'm just going to let it fall where it needs to fall. I don't need to stretch it anymore. It looks like everything is lining up pretty well. So now we're going to be working together. So she's going to work on one side, I'm going to work on the other, because we already have the main areas locked down where we need to lock them down. And so I'm adding adhesive on the prosthetic and on the face prosthetic, so I get this sort of double adhesion. And I'm going to let it dry and then pull it a little bit and let it lay down. You want to watch out. You don't want to pull it too hard, because you don't want it to distort the alien eyes. I've done that with one of these prosthetics before. You'll regret it. Don't pull too hard. So this is my favorite glue brush, the 129. And I'm just lifting up small edges like that. You see how I just pulled it a little bit with my finger and then going up under. It's really awesome. And then laying it straight down right there. There's such thin edges that it doesn't really necessarily need to dry in these really thin edges, because it is a sponge basically. So it will flash off up under this. Sponges breathe a little bit. So as you can see right here, I had some trouble edges up top, and now I'm just picking it away. I have a little bit of 99% alcohol on this brush, and I'm sort of just picking away at an edge. Because they were such thin edges, they were like little paper edges, and they would wrinkle together. To unwrinkle it, put a little bit of alcohol on there and just push it away and then pick it off. So everything is looking good. So now I'm going to do a little bit of edge work on the left side right here. As you can see, I do my little mixture of 99% alcohol with a little bit of adhesive and just stipple over the edge. Because foam latex is like a sponge, it's going to absorb this, the 99 with the adhesive, and it's going to lay itself down. It's just going to absorb straight through it. And you see, I'm just laying down these edges like that, just going right over the edge and laying it down, and it's blending really well. And I'm not going to say it's all me that's blending this really well. RBFX has really amazing prosthetics. So they're made really well, and they have really thin edges. So they're going to lay down pretty well, even without my super awesome techniques. All right, so now I'm using the 173 Stomper brush, and I'm adding a lot of pressure to this, like just pressing it down, because again, the adhesive is pressure sensitive, and I'm powdering it because the edges, I went over the edges with adhesive. So check it out, now we're doing the ears. Yeah, we got the ears. So I'm stuffing the ears with a little bit of paper towel because the ears are hollow. They're meant to go over human ears. They're not meant to just sort of lay down on a cowl. So I stuffed it with a little bit of paper towel to give it some weight inside, to give it, just to basically stuff it so I can paint it better. And so I added a little bit of adhesive to place it where I want to place it. So I put a little bit of adhesive up under this prosthetic, and now I'm sort of just like, okay, where do we want this lined up? And the good thing is, because you barely put a little bit of adhesive, you can pull it back off and replace it if you really need to. You notice none of the edges are down because I didn't add a ton of adhesive up under it. So now Jackie's on the other side, and she's gonna match it with my other ear that I just did. And I'm looking, I'm like, I got in front of the camera, but I'm looking to make sure everything matches up, and everything looks good. Jackie sees something a little wrong, so she's gonna adjust it, but everything looks good. So now we're just gonna start laying down these edges on the ears. Of course, my favorite glue brush, we got the 129 multi-purpose right there, and I have a little bit of adhesive, and I'm sliding it up under the edge, laying down adhesive, and it was one quick swoop, and now I can lay down all these edges of this ear. Like, look how easy they go down. You're just tapping it down. So easy, clean, and it looks like you don't even have to blend it at all. It looks like it's already blended. That's just how good this prosthetic goes down on this side. And I do the same to the back of the ear. One quick swoop right up under, and then I'm just tacking it. I'm just pushing it. A little bit of pressure will make it stick, and it's looking great. Boom, look at that. Oh, this ear went down so well. And of course, we got a powder with that stomper brush. So again, I'm adding pressure and I'm adding powder. So it's pressure and powder is gonna make this prosthetic stay. So I'm sort of using it to poke it, right? I'm not using the flat side, I'm sort of jabbing it. It is a smaller area, but I'm just adding that pressure and adding that powder onto it because I went over the edges with alcohol and adhesive. So I gotta powder those edges so it's not as tacky. And like that, and then I'm brushing that little bit, the excess powder away. And that's it, the ears are on, let's do it. No. Blending the prosthetics. So we're gonna be using the Delium Tools SFX locking tweezers. These are brand new. We're also gonna be using Pros-Aid, a wax paper palette, and orange stipple sponge. All right, check it out. We're gonna be using Pros-Aid. This is Pros-Aid right here. It is just a type of adhesive. You can use Pros-Aid for this whole process if you wanted to glue it down so you don't have to use silicone. These are our brand new locking tweezers as well. This is Delium Tools locking tweezers. I like it because the sponge that you have, we have this orange stipple sponge right here, and you just pinch the tweezers and it's locked and it holds onto the sponge for you so you don't have to hold it in your fingers so you don't get adhesive all over your hand. And look at that, I have the wax paper palette. I'm just stippling, and now over the edges. So if the edges don't look like they're blending well, or if you need to make a good transition, this is an excellent technique. A little bit of Pros-Aid on the edges, stipple, stipple, stipple. And it looks like a lot of Pros-Aid, but the Pros-Aid, once it dries, it's gonna be very minimal. It's not gonna look crazy. And so we're just stippling over the edges, real simple. So over the ear edge, even the seam down the center of the head, we stipple over that a little bit to sort of blend that in. The neck into the skin, the chin, even the lips. So any kind of edge that we might think will show up once we start painting, we're just gonna stipple over it with a little bit of Pros-Aid, and it should blend it really well. Onto the lip right there, even though it looks like it blends well, it's always good to have a really nice transition. So, why not just put a little bit of stipple on there. All right, there, just that orange sponge is gonna add some texture. That once the Pros-Aid dries, it's gonna be very minimal, but it's gonna be, worlds different. It's just gonna look so good. And so now we got to powder everything, of course, because after you add adhesive all over everything is going to be sticky. So let's powder those lips especially, because what's going to happen is he's going to close his mouth and his lips are going to stick together. Don't make that mistake. Make sure you tell him when you're stippling on the lips, make sure you say, keep your mouth open until I can powder it. Let me powder it. So get a fan on it real quick. And then after it dries, powder his lips as soon as possible, or else it's going to stick together. Now, it's not super necessary to powder all this up here because you're about to paint over it anyways, but it's always a good practice to powder most of it, just because what if something sticks to it? What if he moves in a way where his neck sticks to it? Something could happen, so just powder it. Painting with PAX. So we're going to be using the Delium Tools 197 all over stipple brush, the Delium Tools 195 large stippling brush, the Delium Tools 193 small stippling brush, Delium Tools 175 FX 10 brush, Mel Products Monster Green, Alien Green, and Mint Green PAX, a wax paper palette, and have a cup of water on the side. You'll see why. First color up is Monster Green. This is Mel Products PAX, and this is Monster Green. I have the wax paper palette right there and putting a little bit of the color on it. And I'm going to be using the stippling brushes by Delium Tools, the 197, the 193, and the 195 stippling brushes. So look, this is foam latex. Foam latex is like a sponge, so it needs to be sealed by something. You can either seal it with Pros-Aid or you can seal it with PAX. I prefer PAX because look, you're laying down a color. With just Pros-Aid, there's no color to it. So of course we're coloring it Monster Green right now, so we need to seal this entire prosthetic. We need to cover it in green. It doesn't necessarily need to be all over the skin. It needs to be all over the prosthetic to seal it. But that said, we are going to blend it off into the skin a little bit. We're going to stipple a little bit onto the skin. You can see on his neck right there how we came from the prosthetic onto the skin a little bit. So we're using the stippling brushes, but we're also going to need to go into some detail areas. So we're going to need a tighter brush. So I'm going to be using the 175 FX10 brush right here. It's a nice like stippling flat brush. So put a little bit of PAX in it and go into those little wrinkles right there around the eyes, the nose, maybe a little bit on the lips as well. Because you can't do that with these stippling brushes, the larger stippling brushes. So you need a smaller brush to get into the details, of course. All right, now he's looking really green and kind of splotchy a little bit, but he is covered and it's nice and sealed up. But we're gonna stack other colors on top of it, model it, dry brush it, and you'll really see how it all comes together and looks good. But so he looks pretty much covered with green right now. Looks, you know, he's starting to look more alien. I mean, look more Martian-y like, right? He's kind of green. So, and now that we're actually done with the green, let's put your brush in water. Don't let it sit. Don't let the PAX sit in your brush. Put it in water so you can wash it out easier later. And if you need to reuse the brush right now, rinse it out, dry it off, and then reuse your brush. Just don't let it sit with the PAX in it. You can clean it out, just don't let it sit with it. So this is Alien Green by Mel Products USA. So this is Mel Products, of course. This is our second layer of PAX. We're gonna make this layer more washy and dry brushy. And again, we're using all the stippling brushes. So it's going to be much lighter. We're not covering this complete green. We're going to be dry brushing. Dry brushing is an old technique of just hitting the high points, right? So you get a little bit of pigment on your brush. I usually wipe a little bit of the color off on a paper towel and then I go in because you don't want that much pigment on your brush. You're just trying to hit the high points with it. This is a dry brush. You're trying to hit the high points. You're trying to pop the high points. You want to show off the form of the sculpt, right? You want to you know, you really and truly, we're just trying to pop it. We're trying to make it look like a flesh, trying to make it look like your skin has all these different colors on it and everything. And when your bone sticks out in a certain way, it sort of highlights like the high point. That's really what we're doing. And then now we're modeling on top of the head. So we're stippling on top of the head. We're trying to get it to look more like flesh. And as you can see, you know, the highlight really pops when we dry brush the alien green on it. And now the top of the head, we're stippling. So it's really starting to model out and look a little bit more like, you know, like monster flesh, alien flesh, and even human flesh. There's, you know, it's really splotchy. Even though you don't really see it, it is kind of splotchy. And that's what we're doing. We're dry brushing and stippling and modeling all at the same time. And again, we're going a little bit onto his neck, really thin onto his neck. We're not going too crazy. PAX, you can remove PAX off the skin, at least Mel's PAX. Mel's PAX comes off the skin really well, but so we're doing it a little bit. We're not gonna cover it completely, his neck, you know, but we are stippling on there just so we can blend the prosthetics out a little bit better. But all right, this looks a little vibrant. When I was doing this makeup, I saw, okay, this is a little bit too vibrant than what I wanted for with the Martian. So I want to go in with this mint color to make it a little bit more fleshy. So this mint color is really going to dial down that alien green. So this is our third layer. And what we're going to do with this third layer is just like we did on the second layer with the alien. We're going to do a little bit of stippling. We're going to do a little bit of dry brushing. We're going to make that that bright, vibrant yellow sort of pop from underneath. And as you can see, look how it's looking way more fleshy on the head. It's looking definitely more alien-like and looking really cool. So we are using all these stipple brushes still. So she's using the 195 right there, and I'm using the all-over stipple brush over the head because I'm trying to cover this large area. And a technique that I use with stippling with these brushes is I'll stipple, I'll twist the brush, I'll stipple, I'll twist it, because I'll rotate patterns, right? Because these brushes do have patterns. So, rotate, stipple to give it a different sort of look and pattern all over his head. And it's really starting to come together. I think it's starting to look good. Once we get done with this mint color, he's really going to look more fleshy. Now you can do a paint job with just packs like this and dry brush, and you can make it look really good. And we're trying to keep this makeup pretty simple so that you guys can follow and get the gist of how to do a simple alien makeup. But we're gonna go into some other techniques to just show you guys sort of how to start with this base, a nice good looking base, and then add on top of it a little bit without going too advanced. And it's looking cool. I think you could even make this an alien makeup and say good to go. Splatter layers. So we're going to be using the Delium Tools 108 Precision Splatter Brush, the Delium Tools 110 Splatter Brush, a gravity feed air spray gun, an air compressor, EBA airbrush colors olive green and spleen green, and 99% alcohol. Alrighty, so there is the 110 splatter brush and the 108 splatter brush. So I'm going to put a little bit of this olive green that I mixed together. This is an airbrush color. I'm just going to put it on the palette. I'm going to put a little bit of alcohol on the palette with it just to thin it out just a little bit, because I want these splatter, these dots that go on the skin to be semi-translucent and not as obvious. And here I go. So now we're looking close up. So I'm just splattering a little bit. I want these little dots on there to not be super noticeable, but I want it to blend all of these colors underneath together. And I want it to look more fleshy, like splotchy, and all blend together without looking dotty. Like if I want to do dots, they're going to be freckles. I don't want these to be freckles. I want this to sort of just blend everything together. So right here we're using the 110 and the 108 together to just splatter it around. But because this is such a large area, you see, it is a really big makeup. So I do a little bit on the face, but now for the head, I'm gonna have to step it up a notch and make it go by a little bit quicker. I want the model to be comfortable. So I'm gonna be using this basically Harbor Freight Central Pneumatic airbrush, which was like $12. It's really cheap, but it does a nice splatter when you need it, and it covers a large area. So if you dial it down at very low pressure, you can really spit color out of this, and it'll really blend everything together. Like, look at that. You see those little dots? That's what I'm looking for. It's when it goes on, it's not going to be as obvious. So what I'm doing is I'm basically going to cover his head with these little dots, little splatters, but you won't see it because it's all going to blend together. You want these colors to be really washy and not as noticeable. Well, at least that's what I'm going for this. So I'm just trying to unify everything with these dots. And as you can see, it's looking less obvious that we did all that dry brushing and all that splotch. You can see the colors underneath, but it's not like you can just see it and say, oh, that's what they did. This is what they did. We want to make it look as fleshy as possible. And this airbrush just does a really great job for really quick, large areas. Now, if you're just doing a little face or something like that, the 109 or the 108 splatter brush is amazing. It's my favorite, but for just quickness and large areas, I would say instead of wasting hours, just use this really inexpensive airbrush. All right, everything is starting to really blend together. Everything is starting to look good. I'm digging it. And just that one little layer, it looks pretty good. So now we're using the spleen green. So spleen, we're gonna splatter the spleen green as well. This layer is gonna be more freckly. What I want with this is I want it to look more freckly. I want it to look like, yeah, as you can see here, those little freckles and little splotches that I'm doing, I want it to show up. I want to be able to see it. And it is on camera, it's going to look really nice and blend really well, but I want some splotchiness and some spots on his skin. That's just what I'm going for this alien. You don't need to have freckles as an alien, but as you can see that close up right there, you see all those freckles and splotchiness? That's what I'm going for this alien. And I like it. And I also might go with another color over the top of it to knock down these like freckles and everything. So we might take some of those away, might not, who knows. We'll see where it goes. But you see those dark, oh, it's just starting to look good. And that blends everything on the head as well as, you know, and you can also use this technique to blend edges too. So if there's an edge that you see that's really crazy, you know, if you have to, add some freckles on there and it'll cover up some edges. I'm not saying do that, but you know, maybe you can. I'm using a powder puff as well, so to take away freckles that I don't want or don't like. And if you tap those away, it'll also leave like a lighter freckle on there too. Modeling, shadows, and details. So we're going to be using the 118 tattoo liner brush. We're going to be using an Iwata airbrush, an air compressor, EBA airbrush color spleen green and bruised purple, as well as 99% alcohol. All right, I have my Iwata airbrush right here. Really, you can use any airbrush. I just have an Iwata and I have the spleen green. So I put a little bit in the airbrush and I'm gonna like cut it by half with 99% alcohol. So I mixed a little bit of 99 with it. I'm going to do a little bit more because it's a little bit too dark. And so we have the 118 tattoo liner brush. This is a nice detailing brush. So Jackie has the spleen green right here, and she's basically putting striations on his lips with the spleen green. She's just trying to give him a lip basically. It doesn't have to look nice with this makeup because he's an alien, so nothing has to be perfect on this guy. We're going more splotchy with a lot of this makeup, and she's just doing a little bit of detail with the spleen green on his lips. And now I'm going in around his eyes right here. So I'm trying to darken around his eyes with the spleen green. So I'm doing a little bit of modeling around his eyes. Going to do a little bit of shadowing in his cheeks, inside of his ears. And Jackie is going in with a little bit of spleen green and just modeling on the skin a little bit just to give him a little bit more texture on his face. And you can see like in the stress areas on his face, she's doing a little bit of modeling. I'm going into his ears, darkening the inside of his ears. You'll see right here. Giving shape to his ears, giving shadow to his ears. And I'm moving the airbrush around, like squiggle, 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 just a little bit. Just like she's doing with the tattoo liner brush, she's doing little squiggles. Darkening around the eyes. Just a little bit of green. I'm not going too dark with this spleen green around the eyes because I'm going to go in with a different color as well to give it a little bit more dimension. Again, we're trying to keep this makeup as simple as possible with colors. So, you know, spleen green, and next up is going to be bruised purple. So that's the only airbrush colors that we're going to use, and it's just two. So now on top of his head, I'm doing a little bit of modeling, like little squiggles and stuff, but I'm doing it really light and a little washy. And this is just going to help it, you know, just give it dimension and not look so flat. Make it look like skin, do some squiggles. And I'm not going crazy. I'm not trying to go over the high points. I'm not trying to hit the brow or anything with it. So I'm not hitting high points with it. So this is going to be the bruised purple. And I'm going to be using it inside the airbrush as well. So I'm cutting it with 99% alcohol, like probably 50-50. So 50% pigment, 50% alcohol. And I'm just going to go in with the bruised purple. It's a relatively dark purple. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm just going to go around his eyes just hit the edge of the eyes. It's almost a liner. I'm almost doing an eyeliner with it, and then I'm doing a little fade into his face with the bruised purple. A little liner, and then fade it into his brow a little bit, fade it into his cheeks a little bit. And I'm going really, really light with it. I'm not trying to, you know, make it obviously purple. Like when you look at it right there, you can tell that it's not just the spleen, right? You can see that little hint of bruised purple, and that's really what I'm going for. I'm just darkening it with the bruised purple, but I'm not trying to make it looking super, super purple. And right here, you want to make sure your model has his eyes closed. You don't want to get any pigment in his eyes. Just tell him, look, I'm working around your eyes. Keep your eyes closed. And I'm really darkening the tear duct of this alien. I really want that to be dark. Going into the nose a little bit with the bruised purple, going into the face, a little bit of modeling coming down from the tear duct. As you can see, it's a little bit darker, darkening around the eyes. And now it's really starting to come together. It's really starting to look more alive just with this one extra color. You're not making it so monochromatic. Adding sheen and sealer. I'm going to be using Final Seal by Ben Nye. So this is Final Seal. It is a matte sealer, but if you do too much of this on a makeup, it actually gives it a nice sheen. So what I like to do is put it in a spray bottle, or if it's already in a spray bottle, spray it over once, do it again, and do it again. And then if you want like a high gloss in certain areas, like if you want it in the tear ducts or whatever, nice heavy coat, do a couple of coats on it, and you can see already how it's making this makeup look way more fleshy, right? It's just that little bit of sheen makes it look like skin. There are other products that you can get a sheen from or a shine from, but I happen to like doing this because it seals it and gives it the nice sheen. Adding the eyes. So we're going to be using a vacuum form plastic that have been dyed, as well as a Nerf gun dart. You'll see. Alrighty, so these eyes are vacuum formed, so it's really thin plastic that have been dyed so that they're more like sunglasses rather than opaque plastic, so that you'll be able to see through these globes very easily. They will fog up, so you will have to take them out every now and then, but you will be able to see out of these pretty darn well. And so it's not a science of how to get these in there, because you don't want to damage your paint, but you also have to get the eyes in there, and you see how it rolled over right there. So you just got to make sure you don't roll anything over and it looks good. And so now I'm doing one and I'm doing another one. And you also got to watch out, this is plastic that has been cut, so you don't want to have sharp edges on this plastic. You want to make sure it's rounded off. So before putting it in, make sure you sort of put it on your hand and make sure it's not going to cut your model or actor when using these. All right, so now that they're both in there, this is where the Nerf dart comes in. So it's a little suction cup dart I use to sort of pull the eyes out, to put them in place, to put them as far out as you want it, and to make it as comfortable as possible for your model. And right there, Yvonne just pointed, this is touching my eye, so I just grab it, I pull it out a little bit further, and he's like, it's fine. So I'm doing it, I'm trying to make both eyes relatively even, both bugged out as much as we want them to. And that's about it. This is just a little trick that I've learned by using a Nerf dart to help do these eyes. And check it out. Does he look like an alien? It's pretty nice. Hey, what's going on, guys? We're done. We did it. Look, it's a Martian. He's green, he's an alien, he's a Martian, right? Again, I just want to thank Yvonne for sitting for this makeup. It's kind of torturous to be in a makeup this big and sit for, a couple hours. But also got to thank, number one, Delium Tools. We used all the brushes in this video. I love Delium Tool brushes. The FX brushes are amazing. The beauty brushes are amazing. Thanks. But also we have to thank RBFX Prosthetics. We have to thank Mel Products USA for giving us a little bit of paint to do this thing. And as well as the Makeup Show. Yeah. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to make this alien. And we had a lot of fun, and I hope you guys that watch the video get something out of it. Hope you learn a little bit. Have any questions, ask me. I'm here. All right, guys. You ready? We're going to go take some photos.
Let's do it.
So we're out of here. Bye. Cool. Easy.